Now, the major one that I want to talk about today is lack of awareness. And the bad side of this is that because there is a lack of awareness, there's an awareness deficit that we see in society, that means that all of you are easily controlled. That scares me. People who are easily controlled frighten me. When I see people that are called nice, I like good people, I don't like nice people. Nice people frighten me. You want to know why? Because nice people, they don't have something proactive inside them. They are placating. They are trying to simply sell themselves out to placate. And so when bad things are happening in the world, bad people can come to the nice. Here's how it works. Bad people come to the nice people and they say, go after them. And the nice people say, okay, because they're nice. And that is why horrible, horrible things happen in the world, because people are too easily manipulated. Now, here's another thing I'm going to drop for you here that you probably don't know. Most of you in this room, and most people in general, are in a half daze. You're in a stupor. So as an example, earlier, when you talked about things like, say, getting nervous when you're out, believe it or not, even though that's a very human thing to feel, very human, totally human, that also tells me that you're still at the mercy of your emotions. Now, because you're still at the mercy of your emotions, that means that you're probably easily controlled. So I'm just letting you know that, okay? That's my view, just one person's opinion. Maybe you're not easily controlled, I don't know. But generally speaking, most people who I see, they follow the crowd or they follow some alternate crowd, but it's still the crowd, they're just pretending they're not, but it's like an alternate crowd. And basically what it is that they're in a half dream or a half daze. Because you're easily manipulated, you're in a half daze, you're basically being fed lies and stories all the time. Most of the media that you're consuming is the equivalent of Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. And literally, for the vast majority of people, everything that you're consuming is just continually based around, first of all, not offending you, okay? There's a huge emphasis on that, on not offending you. It's also not meant to push you to grow. It's basically meant to placate you. Most of the things that you're consuming are meant to placate you, to tell you that where you're at is awesome, you don't need to improve, everything's perfect, don't worry about it, okay? The basic thing that you're consuming is like, nothing to see here, everything's all good, everything's great. That is the majority of what it is that you're getting. So you know when you're a kid and you lose your tooth and they tell you it's the tooth fairy? That doesn't stop. That never actually stops, okay? Now, I've met many of the best marketers in the world. I've worked with many of the best marketers in the world. The general viewpoint of marketers is society, oh, poor society. Oh, poor society. They're in a half daze. They're in a fantasy world. They don't get it. They're never going to get it. And if you try to help them to get it, they'll get out the pitchforks and go after you. Generally speaking, the people in the world that are at the top of the food chain, reality is so simple and so obvious. Again, reality is so simple and so obvious. It is so apparent. The truth about how the world works is so obvious, so apparent. You'd have to be, honestly, almost an idiot not to see it. But when you're in a half derp state, it's not that you're an idiot, it's that you've never been challenged. And then the people who would talk directly to you about how reality works, they can't do so. They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to talk to you in a direct manner. A, because if they do, then people get mad at them and chaos ensues. Or B, the people who they depend on for their business won't allow you, or won't allow it to be said. So it's always being tamped down all the time. So that first truth to simply understand is that you have a lack of awareness, okay? You're in a derp state. Now, how do I know this? How do I know that you specifically are in a derp state? How do I know that you specifically are in a derp state? I know this for a number of different reasons, okay? One of the ways that I know, simple, I'll give you a quick example how I know, okay? I'm gonna tease you and bother you here a little bit, okay? Now again, you're gonna hate me when I say this. This is why, but you're gonna be mad at me when I say this, and yet that's why no one ever talks to you in an honest way, okay? No one ever talks to you in an honest way. So if you see me outside, okay? Think of it this way, okay? You see me outside. Now there's hundreds of people in here, okay? And then you see me outside. So think about it this way. I'm about to come in here and do an event for hundreds of people. You see me outside. How many people will I see in this room that will come up to me and do something that actually adds value to the room? It'll be about 10% of people. So 10% of people will be like, give me like a little nod, give me a wave, say hi, say, dude, love your stuff. That's about 10% of people. The other 90% of people that are going to see me outside are going to come up and they're going to try to monopolize as much of my time as they physically can. Now, let me tell you something. When I say that, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I'm scolding you. I'm not. I don't care that you do that. It doesn't matter to me that you do that. I'd have to be a moron to come here and be surprised that people are trying to monopolize. Like, why are people monopolizing my, like, I'd have to be a complete idiot. So that's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is the irony that you come in this room, you've come here to learn how to be better socially, and yet you're not even aware how utterly ridiculous it is to come up to me when I'm trying to walk in here. So I don't care. I'm numb to it. It means nothing to me. In fact, I appreciate it. I appreciate people coming up to me. I'm like, cool, it means I'm doing good stuff. So I don't care. I'm not worried about me. I'm not like caring about me. But I am worried about you. I'm worried about your awareness. Now, I'm going to give you a basic math formula for why that doesn't work, okay? I'm going to explain it to you. So a lot of you in this room, you come here, you want to learn social skills. And you want to learn social skills that are going to teach you how to meet people that are maybe above, in a station above you in life. That doesn't mean that they're better than you in the eyes of God. It doesn't mean that they're better than you inherently. None of that, okay? We're all equal in the eyes of God. But as far as, because we're all on our own journey, right? But as far as maybe superficial levels of status, you probably want to meet, maybe you'd like to, make a meaningful connection with somebody who is more attractive than you. Or maybe you would like to, network with somebody who makes more money than you, or things like that. Well, let's think about this for a minute, okay? So here's what's happening to you, and I'm going to show you what's happening to all of society. Anytime that I would want to meet somebody, I do a simple math equation. It's simple math. I go in my brain and I say, if I make an offer for them to talk to me, or if I make an offer to them to spend time with me, can they say yes? Okay? Say that word with me. Say that sentence with me. Can they say yes? Okay, I'm going to say it again. Can they say yes? So what I do is it's actually really simple. I go in my brain and I say, can they say yes to this? Most of the things that I see most of you in this room doing, people of higher status can't say yes. They can't. They physically can't say yes. But you want to know why you don't know that? You don't know that because you're in a derp state. You just don't know because you're half out of it. You're in a stupor. So here's the stupor that you're in. Let me explain it to you. The stupor that you're in basically goes like this. As a kid, you get traumatized. Because you're traumatized, your mental capital is continually being monopolized, okay? So step one, what happens when you're younger? Not for all of you, but for many of you. What happens when you're younger? What's the word? Starts with T. What happens? Okay? And then your mental bandwidth gets what? Monopolized. Say it. Monopolized, okay? And here's how it works. Basically what happens is that because you've been traumatized as a kid, you can't be present to the moment. The reason that you can't be present to the moment is because when you're left alone with your thoughts, it hurts you. Okay? If you're not always thinking all the time and you're just present, it hurts. And it hurts in a mild way. It's not, for some of you, it's like horrifying. For most of you, it just hurts a little bit. It basically just gives you this low-level anxiety. And so because you feel a low-level anxiety, then you start thinking and thinking and thinking because you think you're going to think your way out of the low-level anxiety. It's basically what's going on, okay? So you're traumatized, now you're thinking all the time. This monopolizes your mental bandwidth. Then what happens is that you create this thing called an ego in order to defend your sense of self. So the ego is always there to defend your sense of self, okay? How do I know this? Because I've had many attacks on my ego, and before I understood this kind of work or these kind of ideas, I would spend all my time trying to rebuild my ego. So here's what I do. Somebody would insult me or criticize me or attack me, and then I'd say, well, that's not true because of this, and because of this, and because of this, and I'm good because of this, and because of this, and I would do this. Now, in my case, I had major attacks done on me. If you look at me and Julian, literally between the two of us, the amount of criticism that we've had, you'd be shocked. It's shocking. So I know how this plays out because I've had a magnifying glass of it, okay? I've seen the full amount. Like, see, for you, you have someone like, not like you when you're out, and that feels a little bit like a criticism. And now your mind has to say, oh, well, I'm still good and attractive and because of this and this and this. What happens is, in our cases, we had so much coming at us that your brain can't reconstruct it. Your brain physically can't reconstruct it, okay? At age 25, I had a book where I was in it's like a 400-page book, top seller on Amazon, last 200 pages, just like Owen this, Owen that, Owen this, Owen that. Top selling book on Amazon. Literally, I'm walking down the street, millions of people have read this thing, and basically just think I'm like the worst person ever. So I can go, oh, I'm still good. No, you can't, because millions of people now think of you, or think bad of you. Millions of people. I used to walk into rooms afraid I was going to get attacked, is how I used to feel when that used to happen, okay? It's literally like psychological warfare being done on my brain. Now, I never talked about that for 10 years. I made a decision, I was 25, I'm like, you know what? I'm never going to talk about this. You know what I'm going to do? You know how I'm going to respond to this? I'm just going to put out great freaking content. That is what I did. And thanks, man. And I took out, that's how I handled it. And that's how I responded. Yeah, I've done that for years, okay? If I could go online, read like this, I've literally never seen one video about me where I'm like, they nailed it. I've never seen one. Every time I've ever watched a video about myself, I'm like, what? Literally, it makes no sense. But I don't respond with words. I respond with doing great work. And that's why in our previous niche, we became the best top dogs easily, because I took that energy, and rather than using it to defend myself, I took that energy and fed it back into creating better content. Okay, so that's the main thing to keep in mind there. Great tip there. So whenever you want to defend your ego, just let it be there, let the tension be there, and redivert the energy into being productive. Great tip there, okay? Take it from me, best thing you could ever do. Now, you know what happened? I called a buddy of mine who was in the media when that book came out. I said, what do I do about this? He goes, Owen, I've seen this with a lot of celebrities. He said a great word. He said, consumed with rebuttal. He said, you're going to be consumed with rebuttal. So I knew, I'm like, okay, that sounds bad. I'm like, I don't want that to happen to me. So he says, why don't you, and then my other buddy, another longtime buddy of mine, he says, dude, I read your book, The Blueprint, which I later created in DVD set. He goes, I read that. That thing's so amazing. He goes, why don't you just focus on that, man? Just focus on Blueprint. Nobody could read that and not love it. Focus on that. So I took those two pieces of advice. Don't get consumed in rebuttal. I have great content coming. Focus on that. And that's how I forgot about it. Now, the lesson that taught me, though, was that my old behavior was whenever there was an assault on my ego, I was always trying to rebuild my ego. It was like a house. I'm trying to rebuild it. I'm good because of this. I'm good because of that. That is a big part of the derp state that I'm talking about, okay? Because what's happening is your mental capital is being consumed on maintaining an ego or maintaining a self-image. What that means that when you're in a conversation, you're literally just sitting there waiting for your turn to talk. You're sitting there thinking how you look. You're sitting there thinking how that would affect you. Like, say that I say to you, oh, there's been a bunch of fires in LA. Most of you, the first thought you have, believe it or not, is, oh, well, I'm glad I live in New York then. That doesn't affect me. That's the first thought. You're making it what's called making it about you. Say that word, making it about you. Okay, that's a big thing. You're making it about you. It's like you go talk to someone who you'd want to meet. They don't want to talk to you. And then you flip out. You're making it about you. When in reality, maybe they're just busy or whatever. And then from there, you have to rebuild your ego and your self-image. Again, just making it about you. Okay? So that's the idea there. So this is putting you further in a stupor. Now, by the way, that stupor, how good do you think that is for consumer culture, that stupor?
Excellent. Fantastic.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's the best. Because if everybody doesn't know who they are, they're completely paranoid, they're literally just sitting there thinking how to build their self-image, that's the best consumer you could ever have. So it's a great state of mind to be in, great state of consciousness as a consumer. The problem is it leads to many other bad consequences. So now you're stuck in your head. So because of that, I know that you're doing this because, again, I walk in the room, and I'm not making this about me. I read The Power Now like 100 times. I'm just present. You want to come up to me? This is what it looks like from my reality. I'm present. Some person came up to me, like that. I'm like, that, and then I just keep walking. And it means nothing. Come up to me all you want. I don't care. I don't care what you do. It means nothing to me. I'm not seeing, it sounds like I'm complaining. I'm just trying to show you how I experience it so you can see how that comes across. Now, if I see somebody who's higher profile in a room, in my mind, I want to be friends with them. I want them to come I got a big crib. I want them to come crash in my house. I want them to introduce me to their network. I want them to share with me their ideas. So what I do is I make friends with them. But why, I feel honestly, why does no one here ever want to be my friend? None of you ever want to be my friend. I never come to a seminar where anybody ever wants to be my friend. They either want a picture, which is not being my friend, or they want to get something, which is not being my friend. I am one of the easiest people to make friends with you could ever meet. You want to know why? Because everywhere I go, no one wants to be my friend. Do you know how hard it is for me to make friends? How hard is it for me to make a real friend? It's almost impossible because I'm on social media. Same with Julian. It's almost impossible because I want to just hang out, share ideas, joke around, go to a restaurant, low stress, relax. But I don't get to do that in most cases because I have a social media presence, right? It's like a lot of people who are very physically attractive might feel that way. If someone's very physically attractive and everyone's trying to hook up with them, well, in that case, they feel the same way. Like literally, if someone would just be their friend, they would want that, right? Like I have some I could go all day about this. Just a lot of my friends deal with this. So I could my brain just assembled like 12 hours of content. I'm gonna save that. So I'm like, stop. So because of that, people aren't trying to be my friend. I'm an easy person to make friends with. Any one of you in this room could make friends with me, but you choose not to. The reason that you choose not to, I'm a chill person. I'm not a hard person to make friends with at all. It's easier to make friends with me or him than anybody in this room. It's easier to make friends with me or him than it is to make friends with him. Literally. You know why? Because if you go to make friends with him, if some random person goes to make friends with one of you, you're kind of like, I might be kind of busy. You have chances to make friends all the time. I so rarely get a chance to make a friend that if someone will be my friend, I'm like, oh, someone will be my friend. Like it's a big deal for me. It's scarce. It's actually scarce, okay? Because most of the people who come up to me, they see I have a social media presence, and then they go into taker mode. They can't help it. Now, by the way, do you see how this might help you with your dating life? Getting any sense here? Yeah. Okay, so I'm presenting this as general self-help, but for anybody who wants to learn about dating, if you had this down, I think you'd be in pretty good shape, okay? So you can extrapolate that in your mind. Now, what happens in effect? So let's look at this, okay? So you get traumatized as a kid, and then it monopolizes your mental bandwidth. Your mental bandwidth is completely monopolized, okay? Very monopolized, okay? Oh, by the way, the thing I said about making friends with me, the easiest people to date are the most physically attractive people. Do you understand that? The easiest people to date are the most physically attractive. Do you want to know why that is? Because no one ever acts normal around them. You just walk up, you're normal, they're like, can we hang out? That's what it looked like. Literally, try walking up and just being normal to someone who's very physically attractive. They're going to start wanting your Instagram. They're going to start wanting to hang out with you. It's the easy thing, but the problem is you can't do it. Because as soon as that person who's that physically attractive is talking to you, your ego spins out of control, you lose awareness, and you turn weird. Because you're like, look how cool I'd look. My friends would be impressed. This would feel good. And you go in your head and you start spinning and looping, and then you start acting super weird. Okay? And that's why you can't do it. You physically can't do it. And that's why they're lonely. They're so lonely. So, extends in dating as well. Now, let's look at this awareness issue. So, basically, you get traumatized when you're younger, then it monopolizes your mental bandwidth, and then you're not able to do the simple math equation. The math equation should be, can the person say yes to what I'm offering? Can they say yes to this, right? So as an example, let's say that I walk in here, okay? Now let's say someone comes up to me and starts drilling me with questions about the general content that we're probably even covering a minute later anyway, okay? They start drilling me. What would happen if on my way in here, every single person who stopped to talk to me, I were to sit there and have a great conversation? What would happen? What do you think would happen? I would never even be in here, okay? I would never be in here. Now, I also get this on the street. This is how I know about this. I get this walking down the street. People come up to me, and it's always one of two things. Either A, they come and they fan out. They fan out. So when they fan out, they don't want to be my friend. Or the other thing they do is they do the super cocky thing, where they walk up and they're like, hey, I'm taking you to lunch. And I'm like, okay? They're trying to go cocky, right? They're trying to go cocky. Now, and I always say, they're always like, hey, man, or we'll talk for a bit. We'll have a nice conversation. We talk for 5 minutes. They go, hey, let's hang out. And I'm kind of like, and they're like, let's just hang out. And then I'm like, and I feel guilty because I'm Canadian. So in LA, and probably here in New York, the thing that you say, okay, see, in LA and in New York, if you're not going to hang out with someone, what do? You always just say yes. In LA, everyone says yes, right? If you're like, let's hang out, they're like, for sure. It's like, in LA, when you're talking about hanging out, what you're really saying is it's almost as if, I'm going to drill down on this, it's almost as if what you're saying is, let's imagine what it would be like right now to hang out. Isn't it be cool? And then forget about it and never actually do it. That's what it actually is in LA or New York, in bigger cities, because there's too many offers, right? Oh, we should go grab lunch sometime. It's like, let's imagine that. Lunch. Okay, anyway, yeah, bye. See you never again. Bye. That's basically what it means in a major city. It means literally nothing. I remember because I'm Canadian and I first moved to LA, and I'd always make plans. I'd be like, they would say it to me. That was what was so weird. They're like, we should do lunch. And I'm like, Yeah, cool, yeah, right? And then they wouldn't answer my calls after. Like, why? I'm like, is this a joke? Like, why did you invite me to lunch? Why did you invite me out? And then you won't even answer my text message when you invited me out. Like, that's so weird. Like, I was fine to leave it at that and go our separate ways. Why do you feel the need to like throw this lunch thing out there? And now I feel weird because you didn't even answer. And now I feel weird about it. And then I see them out at a club some other night, you know, and I'm like, hey, like, and in my mind I'm like, are we gonna like talk about how you didn't even like text me back? Like, that's so weird. And that's just what you do in LA. That's like the normal thing. So basically what it is, here's what it is in LA, okay? If you say let's hang out, then there's like a certain way that it would be really happening. Okay, I could talk about that more in detail. There'd be more details exchanged. Then if you just say yes, what that means is let's imagine if we hung out but not do it. And then no means I hate you and wish you're dead. So if someone says let's hang out and I say no, in LA they're like, oh, right? And I'm like, I'm from Canada, so I'm like, no, I'm just like busy. Like, I just don't want to. Like, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand. So what it is that when you said no, that's viewed like I hate you. That's basically how it's interpreted, like you're a terrible human being. So no means I hate you. Yes means that's fun to imagine and not do it. And then there's ways that it actually would, you know, transpire. So what happens is I walk in here and I feel that same guilt because, you know, people come up to me and they talk to me and they invite me out, or they come up to me on the street and invite me out. And again, like this is this classic Owen being so dumb. What I really should be doing is the 30 invitations out I get per day, I should just go, yeah, like everybody else in LA does. Yeah, of course we are. I'm totally hanging out with all 30 people that invited me for lunch. We're all gonna go for a big lunch, you know, right? I should just say that because then they wouldn't take offense. But what happens is I have the same thing, I do it all the time. I go, no, and then I go, man, I go, look, come on, help me out here. Like, you knew there was no way I could say yes to this. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, come on, you know there's no way I can say, like, you know. How could you possibly think, why couldn't you take this nice 5-minute interaction we had, take it for what it was, enjoy it, view it in a fun light that we had a nice conversation. Like, why can't you actually be happy that I talked for, like, let me be a good guy for the fact that I stopped and talked for 5 minutes. Like, let me leave being like, I'm a good guy. I talked for 5 minutes. I'm a good guy. Why don't you let me have that? But instead, you got to be like, now it's lunchtime, you know. And it's like, and have me walking away feeling guilty. I know you're feeling this, right? He's the kind of guy that would be like, probably just do the yes thing. I bet, you know. Yeah, he so would. So like, yeah, we're doing lunch, right? So and again, it is not because we're so cool and the person who asked isn't cool. It has nothing to do with that. It's that we have a social media profile. So we're getting that all day. It doesn't mean that we're better than them, okay? Because I know that the way I'm coming across right now makes it sound like this is like some weird rant to suddenly say that I get invited for lunch. But like, it's not really that cool, okay? So the main thing I'm trying to say is I see the other side of this. I'm aware of the other side of this. I'm trying to educate you here, the lack of awareness aspect. So what I do is they'll say, let's go hang out for lunch. And I try to help them. I say, look, I go, you got to offer more. And then they're always offended. They're like, oh, offer more for lunch? And I'm like, come on, like, stop, like, come on, give me a break. You didn't go up to every other person on the street, try to do lunch with them. Like, did you go up to that person there at the Barney's Beanery and you try to take them for lunch? Is that what you did? Did you go to them and ask them for lunch? No, you came to the person whose video has 100,000 views on it, you saw it, and you asked them to go to lunch. So stop pretending that I'm the superficial one and you're the pure holy one who wants nothing and I'm the big jerk. Like, I actually stopped to talk to you for 5 minutes. What, like, did you stop and talk to anyone for 5 minutes today who you weren't trying to get something from? So stop pretending that, okay? I see this with Ty Lopez a lot. A lot of people in LA will start telling me that Ty Lopez is superficial because he won't give them all their time. And I know I've known Ty for a number of years. And like, I'm like, let me get this straight. Ty Lopez, you go watch his Instagram story. He literally has his childhood friends following him around. You see this? Zach, all these guys, you see this? Okay, who here watches Ty Lopez's Instagram? It's hilarious. You should watch. Okay, the thing's amazing. He literally has his childhood friends. How many of you literally tell your childhood friends, yo, live in my mansion, come kick it with me, And like literally friends from 20 years ago who, from a superficial standpoint, have nothing to offer, but they're just your real friends. And meanwhile, people will come up to me in LA and say that Ty, oh, he's so superficial because he won't, give them some big lunch that they want. And I'm like, well, are you paying for your childhood friends to follow you around all day? Well, then clearly, you're actually more superficial than Ty. But they want to say that. They want to frame it like Ty's the bad guy because he won't just go grab lunch with them. Meanwhile, Ty's at his house with like, the just recently crowned NBA champion, like Golden State Warriors, like at his house. But they think that he's going to ditch the Golden State Warriors that came over to his house and they're going to hang out with some random person on the street. And so, again, as I'm saying this, if I post this video, I can already tell you what comments are under it. This is what it's already going to say. It's going to say, whatever, why are you talking about, like, you from LA, you live in Hollywood, you're so superficial, I don't care about hanging out with people that are superficial, I'm the pure one. No, that's called sour grapes. You're lying. You're lying right now. You're lying to yourself. 100% you wouldn't mind hanging out with presidents of countries. 100% you wouldn't mind hanging out with movie stars. Stop pretending. Does that mean that it's your whole life? Does that mean that you're just like some person that watches TMZ all day? No, it doesn't, right? It just means that people who are doing a lot of interesting things, if they're doing interesting things, they have a public profile. If they have a public profile, then it's because they're doing interesting things, and therefore you might want to meet people that are doing interesting things. Is that bad? Is that superficial? Does that make you a bad person? It's okay to want that. That's fine. Notice that people at a low level, they always want to play the moral superiority card. You ever seen that? It's like people that make almost no money. What do they call that? Honest work. Well, yeah, it's honest work. Don't get me wrong. It's honest work. I agree. It's honest. It's honest work. But why don't we call it what it is? You're not contributing what you could. You're not contributing your gifts. You're not pushing yourself. You're not developing your potential. You've got way more potential. You've got a God-given potential. You could have cultivated it. You chose not to. So then you just call it honest, as if everybody else who did cultivate their God-given potential is dishonest for the fact that they get paid. That's the basic framework. They're always going to take the moral superiority card. It's the classic move, okay? So let's keep going down this train, okay? So a lot of time what I'll say to them is I'll say, look, let me help you out here. Let me help you out. When you live in LA, for you here live in New York, you live in New York. If you see someone who's high profile, who you want to hang out with, what do? You have to have something ready, okay? There's two levels to this. One is you've got to change your personality, okay? You've got to alter your personality. How do you do that? You become your best version of yourself. Become more indifferent. Become louder, funnier, more gregarious, and so on and so forth. Confident. It's not a big deal. Don't make things into a big deal. So you improve your personality. But another thing is, you have to have something on deck that you can invite people to. Invite them to something. Because a lot of the time when I meet someone on the street, if they would just invite me to something even a little bit, like even if it was 5% more interesting than lunch, there's actually times I would say yes. If it was 5% more interesting. But the problem is, if you have too many invitations, you've got to start trimming somewhere. Now let's look at this, right? Right now, you've got 100 invitations. Who's the first people that you trim? People that are nervous. That's like right off the bat. They're nervous around you, you just trim them, right? You got 100 invitations, 50 of them are people that were nervous. You can only take one, only one. The first 50 are people that were nervous, right? That's right off the bat. The next 30 are people that just look kind of ho-hum, like, hi, yeah, hi. Okay, all the things that we've taught you in social skills classes not to do. Okay, all the things that we've tried to help you with in our social skills content to not do. So 50% right off the bottom are nervous, they're cut, because you got to get to one, right? Then the next 30 right off the bottom are people that are just kind of just like, hey, and so on and so forth, okay? Now, the top 20 are people that are not nervous, that are like, carry themselves well, they own their space well. Okay, now what you're probably doing is saying, here's the next one. Would they make a big deal if I don't make it? Would they make a big deal if I had to flake? That's like your next one that you're probably going to go for. You know why? Because if you have status, you've flaked on people before, and they go nuts. They go nuts. Ask anybody who's let someone buy them a drink at a club. What happens? If they don't go home with the person that bought them a drink, they start getting criticized. So you've got to also, this is a big one that I've just told you, make it very obvious that you don't care if they come out or not. You're going to do that by two ways. What are the two ways to show? It's not a big deal to you? What are the two ways? One is in your vibe, the other is verbally. Okay, one is in your vibe, the other is verbally. I did an audit of the fans that I hung out with that I met on the street, and literally about half of them were actually people that had nothing to offer at all, but they look like they're in this kind of half spaced out daze. and they just look like they wouldn't care either way if I hung out with them or not. It's the weirdest thing. I did an audit. You want to know why that is? The most likely person I'm going to hang out with right off the street is someone where if I leave, they won't notice. They literally won't notice if I leave. They will not notice if I leave. They're so just doing their own thing that they don't care if I'm there or not. Why do you think I wind up hanging out with people like that? No downside. Say that after me, no downside. No downside. Okay, so you're doing what's called downside removal. I actually spent a year working on my social skills and dating, literally just examining for about a year just how to remove downside. I spent about a year just focusing on that, and that was one of my best years that I ever spent on focusing on my social skills, was just focusing on removing downside. If you can come across in your vibe like the person could leave any time and you won't even notice, just by the way you carry yourself, they're far more likely to come because they've had negative experiences when they left with other people. So main point being is remove downside. If you can remove because here's what happens. Say that you make an invite and you've removed the downside, then what happens is you say, hey, do you want to come out? They think about it and they go, well, I don't really want to go hang out with this person, but they probably won't care if I leave, so I guess I'll go for 5 minutes. But then what happens when you go for 5 minutes? Then it becomes 10 minutes, then it becomes 20 minutes, then you're having a good time and you stay. So that's a big one, removing downside. The other one is verbally. So half it's by your vibe. What kind of things can you say verbally so someone would feel comfortable to hang out with you? You don't have to, it's too like in your face, like you don't have to. It's like, whoa. It's too like calling it out. It's like, you know what's really good in social skills? Kind of these vague, witty kind of turns of phrase. You just sort of vaguely allude to things without saying it explicitly. Like if you're like, so I'm gonna go to this place, but you don't have to. It's like, whoa, it's a little aggressive, It's more like, oh yeah, we're gonna pop out over here. Yeah, pop out if you want. Like you do it in your vibe, like, oh yeah, we're gonna go here. It has this to it. Yeah, maybe pop by. Right? Just like, it's all very like in big cities, all the language is always very pop by, check it out for a sec. I think I might be crashing out early. I'm just going to check it out for a sec. It's always like low key. You basically want to imply there's a bunch of other people there. Probably we won't even see each other that much. We'll probably just say hi to each other. It's very low key. It's just very low key. So you're just erasing downside. You do that, people come with you just about anywhere. You're just like, hey, Popeye. They're like, oh, Popeye. They're going to go, okay? So you're thinking about that. Quick question there. Look at yourself here. No awareness. It's like you want your question answered that I can hear you, but they're all going to get bored. Use your voice in a way that they don't get bored.
What about more than
Use your voice in a way. Stand up, face the crowd. Don't make them get bored. Because watch, look what you're doing. Look at you right now. You're like this. Okay, so, right? How do you feel now? You don't feel good. You see that? That's the derp state. That's what I'm telling you. You're in a derp state. That's why I'm telling you you're in a derp state. You have so much mental capital absorbed with you, that even to ask a question, you've never taken the pause to be like, wait a minute, they can't hear over there. But I have a question. I want to know about me for my question. Now, I don't mean confrontational. Understand, all the top marketers, people at high levels, they know what I'm saying, but they won't tell you. Do you want to know why they won't tell you? Because they're afraid that you could get mad. Like, oh, you told me I'm in a derp state. Right, and they don't want to tell you. And then they've learned that when you tell people the truth, they get angry. So they don't tell you. You just don't find out. Okay, so ask it in a way where the person, literally, you've got to ask it in a way where the person all the way at the back is like, this is fun, what he's saying. Do that. Okay?
What about you're more than welcome to join?
What's that?
More than welcome to join.
Okay, so he said you're more than welcome to join. I think it's okay, but again, people at a high level, even that I don't think is enough. Like literally, I try to make it where they can barely even understand what I said. Okay? Like they don't even know what I said. Okay? Like if I'm DMing with someone on Instagram and it's someone who's very attractive, I'm gonna just put like this weird slew of emojis and like half words. Okay? Because as soon as it looks like an overinvestment, it's like, ugh. So, like you can, like look, everything can work differently for different people. But if I'm like, okay, we're gonna go to this party. What was the thing you said?
More than welcome to join.
We're gonna go to this party. You're more than welcome to join, right? As opposed to like, we're popping over here. We're gonna check it out, right? And then You know, and then I'm like, we're going, hey, pop it, let's go. You know, just like that. They're like, huh, right? It's a lot of that. It's a lot of like, I basically just want to look like I'm a kid with rich parents who smokes weed and paints. You know what I mean? I'm a billionaire trust fund baby. I sit in a robe all day painting and smoking weed. You know, we're gonna go there. Come on. Okay, that's basically what I'm going for. So, because I'm removing the downside, okay? I'm removing all the downside. I'm making it look like, because imagine right now you met a billionaire who sits in a robe all day and paints and smokes weed, and they're going to a party and they're like, oh, yeah, bye, right? Hey, it's hot. You know, right? You're like, and then you go. So you're removing downside, okay? Then from there, if it's somebody, like you have to, like most of you in this room, if I ask you, do you know what the really good restaurants are in New York after hours? Most of you don't even know. So if you met someone right now, you wouldn't even know where to invite them to for a restaurant. But in addition to that, what if you meet someone high profile? You probably don't know how to talk to them. You don't know how to make yourself stand out. You don't know how to talk to them. You don't know what to invite them to. You've got to have things to invite them to, okay? You know what you should have? You should have some kind of plug where you probably, you've befriended someone that has something entertaining that you can get for free, okay? And it's something that you'd like to be doing anyway. Ideally, it's something where you and a group of your friends go, and your friends are fun, and it's low key. Then what you do is you go do that thing, and you put it in your Instagram story, and then if I flake you, I still see it in your Instagram story, and then I'm like, oh, that looked cool, I missed out. So that's what I do. I assume in a city like LA to be flaked 8 or 9 times with somebody who I want to hang out with. But they're going to keep seeing it in my story, and eventually, and I stop contacting them, and eventually they feel bad, they get FOMO, fear of missing out, and then they ask me, like I literally just got one like right now. There's someone who flaked me like 3 times, and literally they just said, hey, can we meet up as soon as you get back to LA? Okay, out of nowhere. And I'm sure this person has plenty of people to spend time with. So the thing is, they saw me having fun, and they got FOMO, okay? So the main key to it is that this stuff is so easy. It's so easy to make friends with people of higher profile, who have more going on. It's the easiest thing in the world, but here's what you gotta do. You've gotta go out of your trauma, get out of your ego defense mechanism, realize that your mental bandwidth is being monopolized by all this trauma and ego and self-concern, which is a big part of our society, makes society very easily manipulable. And then what you gotta do is get present to the moment, and then just spend a bit of time thinking, what are other people experiencing? What do they feel? How could I connect to their reality? And by the way, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Feel free. See how it goes. See how it goes. Because I'll put this video out and you'll literally see in the comments, I'm not going to do that. I don't care about this. Cool. Then see how it goes. I don't care how it goes. I don't want to meet anybody. Well, then why are you watching a channel about socializing? Why? Why? You're lying. You're lying. It's okay to admit you want things. It's okay. So I'm just trying to show you how to get it. Okay, so ironically, the thing that makes you, here's the irony. The thing that makes you want it is the thing stopping you from getting it. Do you see that now? So what you've got to do is you've got to take that focus, the thing that makes you want it, it's good that you have desire, but then take that desire and then manifest it and harness it in a way that will actually work. Okay? Because even the people that are going, I don't care, they're just in self-defense. What are they doing? Their ego got hurt, and they're reassembling their ego. I don't care. Okay, you're lying. You're just reassembling your ego. Okay? So that's the main thing. So this is a lot of what we talked about here is the extensions building upon a lot of Julian's work with Transformation Mastery. This idea that when you're traumatized, these things don't come to you. Do you want to know when a lot of this stuff started to occur to me? When I let go of trauma. When I wasn't as messed up and stuck in my head anymore, I was able to be present, and then I'm like, wait a minute, reality's obvious. The solutions are obvious. Most of the solutions to things in general are pretty obvious. But when you're trapped in your head and you're stuck, unfortunately, it's not obvious. And you're so trapped in your head that if anyone tells you, it's like, it's like, stop. Stop being offended. These are things that you can easily fix. You can fix this stuff. You're a human being, you're smart, you can fix it. This is not impossible code here, okay? It's not mission impossible. All you gotta do is just get out of your trauma, get out of your ego sustenance, and then get to the point where you're just aware, spend time thinking about where other people are coming from, and the solutions will come to you naturally, okay?
Yeah. And I do want to just stress again with that derp state and all of this, like it does all come down to trauma if you think about getting to the cause, right? You talking to someone, being stuck in your head, micromanaging a certain image, that is ego built on trauma. Of course you're not going to be present. You're like, what if they see through me? What if they see this about me? I'm hiding this. A lot of people are just hiding while out. They're just maintaining a front. And how draining is that? How can you be present if you're maintaining a front? Going even deeper, you don't see reality as it is. Right? The internal colors the external. If you're in a state of fear, you're going to project that on someone and you're going to look for threats. And then who do you calibrate to? Not who that person really is, but how you see them in that traumatic state of fear. And then of course it doesn't work. If you're in a state of victimhood, you're looking for bad people everywhere and you're going to calibrate to that. Oh, they're hurting me. Oh, this person's against me in this. And people just stay stuck and stuck and stuck. It also links back to what we talked about before, getting triggered. Social anxiety is not normal. That's trauma. Being stuck in your head is not normal. That's trauma. Getting stifled. Oh, status. That's not normal. That's trauma. Not being charismatic is not normal. That is trauma. You all have charisma. You just have all these things that are blocking it from coming out.
No, but wait, aren't they just bored and introverts? They're just bored and introvert. What's the special way to have everyone love you as an introvert where you do nothing and don't talk to anyone?
Yeah. No, it's insane.
Introverts videos is one of the most popular things. In clickbait, put how to get this as an introvert. Oh, I'm going to be doing tons of those.
Now you can always, now to be fair, you can always argue, okay, nature, nurture, introvert, extrovert, but here's the thing. People use that as an excuse to stay stuck. And guess what? If they assume, okay, I'm an introvert, now what? They're acting from this I am an introvert, keeping that alive.
Oh, also, let's be clear. Introverts. Yeah. Introverts. Introverts.
Big time.
Introverts. Introverts. Okay? Introverts. Okay?
It's true. Naturally introverted. And guess what? You can do
introversion's a real thing, including cutting off your friends, is a real thing.
Awareness of.
But look what you can do with it.
No, but it's true. You can use it as an excuse. Oh, I'm an introvert. And you can use some tips to try to blast through it, but it never gets you that result. Getting to the cause is letting go of trauma.